Welcome back to my next playthrough series. This time it's Warhammer Quest the Adventure card game, and I will be using the Bright Wizard here and the Warrior Priest. I'm going to be doing Solitaire, which means you use two characters. And I have done the setup here for A Foul Stench. This is Quest 1. There's five quests sequentially to go through in the base game here. With the only game, there was no expansions except for a couple little card expansions that I never did get. And one sort of open-ended quest that you can do. So I'm not going to go through the setup. It's all been done. And we will take a look at the story, which is right here. It says, the city of Champ has never seen anything like it. The youngest fell ill to sickness a moon ago, and their elders soon followed them to the grave. At first, it was believed that the plague brought on by the debauchery of a traveling carnival, but the execution and burning of the entire troop did nothing to quell the problem. A perplexed and dying city was on the verge of collapse until an unsuspected rat catcher named Jod began spreading tales of a peculiar odor, more peculiar than usual, emanating from the sewers. Jod informs you that he has also stumbled across a secret entrance dug into the tunnels on the outskirts of town. Something has recently been accessing the city's water supply, no doubt for devious purposes. You must investigate. And so what we're going to do now, and I should say this playthrough is going to be different than all my other ones. Normally I do a playthrough, I put up a video a day until the playthrough is done. Because I don't have much time, what I'm going to do with this series is I'm going to post up one video, and then I'm going to let you guys find my mistakes, which will probably be obvious to you and not so obvious to me as I play through the game. And also take suggestions as to what I should do for the next episode. So how this video series is going to work then is I'm going to do one turn per episode, and there will be a few days probably in between where we can talk about strategy for the next episode. So I can catch mistakes in between episodes, which is not always possible in my other series. And you guys watching will have input into what you think I should do. Now, of course, you're going to be at the mercy of me rolling the dice, so there's nothing much you can do about that. We'll focus in on the two characters. You can take a look at their cards. I'm not going to go through them in detail until we actually play the game, which we'll be doing the first turn this episode. So we'll take a quick look at the Bright Wizard and then the Warrior Priest, and then I will have turn one basically starting. And yes, quest one is called A Foul Stench. So I'll just show you this side of the card because this is the tracker for our quest. This little token here is going to move down per turn. So the first turn, it starts here. We have a green area, blue, and a red, and they trigger certain effects. We have a victory condition, we have a defeat condition, and that's about it. And we're also, Odious Grump is our nemesis for this first quest. And I'll explain these as we play. There's so much damage he does, how much health he has, how much resilience he has to negate damage. These keywords will explain as I play. Same with the prey. But this symbol is on the black die. You'll see it says distribute 2 wounds among the party. That is always active during this quest. So whenever I roll that, we have to inflict 2 damage to our heroes. Alright, I'm going to now, like I said, zoom in quickly on the Bright Wizard. I'm not going to read over all the cards and stuff, and the Warrior Priest, and then we will begin. And once again, I'm not 100% sure just how detailed this is going to show up in the video, but like I said, I'm not going to go through each one of these cards. They're basically, we have an attack card, an aid card, an explorer, and a rest card for each of the characters for a Bright Wizard. And it also says here the hero activates twice during each hero phase. Basically, we get 4, I guess, turns or actions during the hero phase. When you're playing solitaire with only 2 characters, each character will get 2 actions, and we're going to alternate back and forth. So she has the little torch here, which you can just see. I'm going to have the Bright Wizard be the first player. So she'll take a turn, then our Warrior Priest back and forth, back and forth. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm not going to read this. You can probably read it. I will explain as we play. So we're going to go take a quick look at the Warrior Priest, and then I think we're going to be good to go. Alright, so a quick look at the Warrior Priest. Oh, I should say this big red number is the hit points they have. If ever one of them is knocked out, the game ends and you lose. So our Bright Wizard 22 hit points, our Warrior Priest 25, and it depends on how many players. So he's got his attack, Righteous Fury, Aid, Sigmar's Light, Explore, Path of Redemption, and Rest, Battle Prayers, similar to the Bright Wizard. and you get to activate one action on your turn. And so, like I said, I'm not going to read all this. You probably can read the text. Maybe not. I'll be showing you the cards closer as we play them. I'll be using dice to track how much damage they have, not the little tokens. And I will be using the ever-popular star dice to signify when an action has been used, or exhausted as it's called. Alright, I'm going to zoom out now, and we are going to start round one, or turn one. Okay, so we're going to begin the game, and there's basically 4 phases in each turn. We have a hero phase, an enemy phase, a location phase, and a peril phase. So the first thing we need to do is reveal our first location that we've done for the setup. So these are the location cards. The first location we have is the Winding Tunnels. It's a lair. It says the tunnels branch and fork and double back upon themselves. A wrong turn could lead to disaster. So we have some skulls on the side here. I'll explain those here just in a second. We need 6 exploration or 6 success tokens on this location to move to the next one. The idea of the game being we need to get to Grump Sump, which is the final location. It's the 4th card in the setup. These are randomly selected, and you can see a 1 here because we're on quest 1. It's telling us to use the level 1 locations. At the end of the location phase, the party leader may discard 2 progress from this location if he does not spawn an enemy face down in the shadows, which takes us to the little skull symbols here. 2 enemies will be engaged. That will spawn and engage our heroes. 1 will be spawned to the enemies. So that's how this location sets up. So I'm going to put it here. And so in going with the setup, we're going to have 2 enemies. We're going to first engage our Bright Wizard, then we're going to engage an enemy with the Warrior Priest, and then we're going to get 1 in the shadows. So our first enemy that shows up is going to be a ghoul. He is diseased in advance. I'll explain that as well, it's here. He is going to engage our Bright Wizard. So we're just going to set that up. Second one is going to now engage our Warrior Priest. He's a Goblin Warrior Elite. Oh, great. Off to a good start. And the third one, according to the location, goes into the shadows. So shadow area, engaged area. And that's basically the setup for the location. So we are now beginning, I guess I'm going to call it round. I can't remember if it's called turns or round. Round 1. I'm using this little die here to designate the back and forth turns. So the first player, Bright Wizard, we are on the hero phase, and now the heroes will start taking their turns. So up first is the Bright Wizard. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rest action, which seems silly because we're not wounded. Resting is generally for healing. So we look how these cards work as we go from top to bottom. It says you may exhaust 1 non-nemesis enemy engaged with you. The only nemesis we have, of course, is Odious Grump. We're going to exhaust this non-nemesis enemy, and I'm using my little star tokens here to signify he is exhausted. So I won't be tapping the cards, turning them sideways. And then it says I can roll 2 dice, your remaining for resting, and you get successes to gain health back. But because I'm not damaged at all, I'm not even going to roll the dice at all because I don't need to. I've used that skill, so I will be exhausting that action. So that was basically the Bright Wizard's action. I just wanted to exhaust the ghoul because I don't want him to disease me, and I think that's going to work okay. So that was the first action. Remember, we each get 2. So now we're going to go over to the Warrior Priest, and he'll take his first action. Alright, so we have our Warrior Priest. Here is 25 hit points. I'm tempted to use Aid, which might not be a bad idea. Or we might want to use Righteous Fury and see if we can take out this Goblin Warrior. I think that's what we're going to do. So for his first of 2 actions this turn, you may engage 1 enemy. What that means is he can pull an enemy from somebody else over to him, either from the shadows or from another player. And I don't think he's going to do that because we're not going to need to do that, I don't think. Then it's Aid, rolling 2 dice. Before the action, you may exhaust another action to target 1 additional enemy and apply 1 more success. Not going to do that. So we will be basically rolling 2 white dice. I haven't shown you the dice. 2 white dice for our heroes. And we have to roll a black die for every enemy that is engaged with you, no matter which action you're taking, unless the card specifically says otherwise. So we're going to go over to the dice tray. We're going to be rolling our dice. I guess I could show you them. Some have shields and successes. One side has the starburst symbol, which is an exploding die, which is a success. You roll it again. And the black die has these little claw symbols on them. 50-50 chance of getting one of them. 2 blank sides, and the nemesis side that needs to be activated if you roll it. So let's go to the dice tray. We're going to roll up Righteous Fury. I might as well put one of these on it right now, so I know that I'm going to be exhausting the card. Go to the dice tray, roll up our dice, and see what we get. Alright, so we're going to roll up our dice, and we're going to see what we get. And, oh man, this is a pretty good roll. As you can see it there, we get basically 4 successes, but we get the symbol for Odious Grump. So let's go back to his area, and we are going to apply those successes. Alright, so we're going to take a look at the Goblin Warrior here. He has 2 health, he has no resilience. And we had 4 successes. We're going to apply all our successes to him. We only need 2 to kill him. We have an overabundance of successes. The Goblin Warrior is eliminated and taken out of the game. Excellent. Now we did roll this symbol though, which is not great because we must process this, and it's the bottom of our Nemesis card. Distribute 2 wounds among the party. And I think we're going to do both wounds to our Warrior Priest. He has the most health. I'm going to use these little red dice to signify wounds. So he basically has now 2 wounds. Now there's ways to heal wounds back. Path of Redemption. Does he have a healing? Aid, explore. Yeah, rest. Rest lets you heal wounds. And so that was our Warrior Priest's first action. We're going to go back now to the Bright Wizard for another one. Okay, our Bright Wizard, I think we're going to go ahead and explore. Now this explore, I'll explain it as we go. So it's basically Burning Sight. Explore, we're going to roll 1 white die and any black dice for engaged, non-exhausted enemies, which our Bright Wizard has none. After that, we're going to draw and resolve a dungeon card. And then it says you may suffer up to 2 wounds to claim a success for each wound suffered. So we can add extra successes to our exploring and then ready all of your actions. So it tells you top to bottom what to do. So we're going to go back to the dice tray, and we're going to roll 1 of our white dice. So let's take a look and see if we can get some successes out of this. Alright, so we're going to be rolling 1 white die. Come on, let's get an exploding symbol. And we get, actually not bad, we get 2 successes. Alright, back to our Bright Wizard. Alright, back to our Bright Wizard. 2 successes. So we're going to put, we have these little tokens here for our locations. They have 3s on one side, 1s on the other. So we need 6 to fully explore the winding tunnels, but we now have 2 success tokens on it of a possible 6. And that, then continuing on with explore. So we rolled our die, applied our successes, so that's basically been taken care of. Next is draw and resolve a dungeon card. So we're going to draw a dungeon card, and then we're going to resolve it. Perilous Path. Oh, this doesn't sound good. The ground is unsteady, ready to give way at any moment. It appears to lead towards the way out, however. You may add 2 progress to the location. If you do, roll 1 enemy die. On a wound, suffer 1 wound and become bleeding, which is a condition. You know what? I think we're going to do that. So we're going to add 2 to the success here. So we're going to do that. So now we have 4 successes on winding tunnels. But if you do roll a die on a claw symbol, suffer a wound and become bleeding. So let's go to the dice tray, and we're going to be rolling 1 of the peril die, the black dice, and we're going to see what. All right, rolling the black peril die. And we do indeed get the claw symbol. Damn it. All right, back to the Bright Wizard. All right, it's time to take our lumps. We're going to take 1 wound. So again, I'll use the red little dice to signify our wounds. And you become bleeding. So we're going to get the bleeding condition. This is not good for us. And bleeding says, after your activation, suffer 1 wound. And I believe you would do that now. After another hero aids you, discard this card. So after your activation. So at the end of her activation, which I guess is happening now, she's going to suffer 1 more wound. So she's going to be up to 2. Got the bleeding condition, but we got those 2 extra successes. And she is bleeding now, so this will be a condition she has. Now, of course, I'm going to be aiding, I think, with the Warrior Priest on his next action, which will then get rid of this condition. So that was now the end of our Bright Wizard's turn. Back now over for the last turn for the hero phase, which will be our Warrior Priest going for the 2nd time. All right, back to the Warrior Priest. And I think we are going to use Sigmar's Light, which is Aid. Aid, this keeps going to be rolling 2 dice. Let's take a look here. So again, really nice artwork on these cards too. Very, very cool. So Aid is going to roll 2 white dice plus a black die for any engaged enemy, which he has none. The target hero may ready an action. Cool. You and the target hero each recover 1 wound. Very, very awesome card. All right, so he will be aiding. So first thing he's going to do is roll 2 white dice. Now we are going to get rid of the bleeding condition on our Bright Wizard. Says after another hero aids you, discard this card. So I'm going to do that now so I don't forget. But we're going to be rolling the 2 white dice now, and we're going to see how many successes for aid we can add to some of the Bright Wizard's abilities. All right, 2 white dice for aid. Come on, let's get a good roll. All right, so this time we get to see the exploding die in action. So we have the exploding die, which is a reroll. So we're going to take 1 success token, add it to our 1 success, and this gets to be re-rolled for some more. Come on, another one. Oh, and 2 more. Wow, that's fantastic. So we end up with a total of 4 aid tokens that are going to be distributed onto the Bright Wizard's abilities. That's excellent. All right, so we have 4 success tokens to be added to our abilities for the Bright Wizard. Now we can only put 2 on any card, so you can't put 3 or 4 on. I think we're going to put Explorers. We're going to put 1 on Explorer. We're going to put 1 on Fan the Flames, and 2 on Fireball. I think I'm going to put 2 on the Explorer ability. Going through the locations quickly in this game is very beneficial because if you get stuck in a location for too long, you're going to end up having a bunch of issues, and we don't want to have issues. Okay, that was the first part of Sigmar's Light, so I'll just grab the card from him. Continuing on, the target hero may ready 1 action. Well, this action is exhausted, so she's going to get to be able to ready that action. Continuing on, you and the target hero each recover 1 wound. All right, and that will exhaust, of course, Sigmar's Light. He's used that ability now, so I'm putting, of course, one of these little stars on there to signify that that ability is exhausted. So we get to heal 1 damage each, so our Bright Wizard only has 1 damage, and so does Sigmar. I mean our Warrior Priest of Sigmar, I'm assuming he is. So they just only have 1 damage each, and that's going to end off basically the hero phase. I'm going to zoom out and we're going to do the enemy phase. Okay, how does the enemy phase work? Well, we start with the first player, which is our Bright Wizard. Any engaged enemy with her that's not exhausted, which she doesn't have, would then we would follow its card ability and have that take place. But that's not happening because the ghoul is exhausted. So now we look up into the shadows, and we do have 1 card in the shadows. It will activate, come down, and possibly and engage our hero, and we have a giant bat. So the giant bat is going to basically engage our Bright Wizard, and now we're going to activate it. So we're going to follow along the thing here. So retreat. So basically it's going to retreat, which means it's going to go back to the shadows where it was, and then it's going to inflict, and it will inflict 1 damage onto our Bright Wizard. And it also says, while in the shadows, this enemy cannot suffer wounds. So you have to engage it, bring it down to you, and attack it. When the party travels, this enemy is not discarded. So normally enemies in the shadows, when you change locations, they get discarded. But this giant bat is going to follow you. So it's retreated to the shadows, and it inflicts 1 damage onto our Bright Wizard, back up to 2 damage. That's not good. And then we would pop over to our Warrior Priest. There's no other enemies involved. And of course, when it does its activation, it is exhausted. So now at the end of the enemy phase, all enemies that are exhausted, of course, refresh. So these 2 will, of course, become active again. They've done their thing. And then we're going to go on to the location phase. Now our location has 4 success tokens on it. And there's 3 parts of the location phase. There's the start of the location phase. Do you want to move on from the location? And end of location. Well, we only have 4 successes of 6. We cannot move on in the Winding Tunnels lair. So now, and it says this is the end of location. So there's no start of location. We're not moving on. So we have to process end of location. So at the end of the location phase, the party leader may discard 2 progress from this location. If he does not, spawn 1 enemy face down in the shadows. Now we can take 2 of our 4 and get rid of them, or we can spawn an enemy face down in the shadows. I think we're going to be moving on to the next location, so I don't think we want to pull 2 successes off of our search. I think what we want to do is we will spawn an enemy face down to the shadows, and that's what we're going to do. So that's not an issue. That was the location phase. Up last is the peril phase, and all the peril phase is we're going to move the tracker along the tracks. I'll try to zoom up there a little bit and we'll see that take place. And I'm not sure just how clear that is. I think it's pretty good. So the peril tracker token then is going to move here. It hasn't hit the green yet, so we're just going to have another full turn with nothing special happening. And that is basically the end of an entire, I think it's, yes, a game round. So I'm going to call them rounds, not turns, because each character gets 2 turns. And what will happen, of course, the very end of our turn is the first player marker is going to move over to our Warrior Priest. He will be starting on episode 2, which I will get your suggestions and input for, because it will be probably a few days before I get the chance to film again. So what I will do at the end of this episode then is I'm just going to zoom in quickly on a sort of an overview of what we've got, quickly on the Bright Wizard, quickly on the Warrior Priest, and we'll wrap it up. And you can leave comments for suggestions of things you want me to do for the next episode, and away we'll go from there. So sort of a far shot, we have 1 face down enemy in the shadows. We don't know what it is. We have this giant bat that's going to follow us. We change locations. We can only wound him if we pull him down, engage him, and attack him. We have a ghoul who is engaged with our Bright Wizard, and we have no enemies engaged. With the Warrior Priest, they both have 1 damage. Now I'm going to zoom down on the Bright Wizard so you can look at her cards. We're going to zoom down on the Warrior Priest. The Warrior Priest has Righteous Fury, Sigmar's Light, exhausted, and our Bright Wizard has nothing exhausted. Warrior Priest is going to go first in the next episode. So let's zoom down on him first and then the Bright Wizard. Okay, so this is where we sit with the Warrior Priest. He's 1 damage, first player. He has Righteous Fury and Sigmar's Light, exhausted. He has Path of Redemption, not exhausted, and he also has his Battle Prayers, which will refresh at the end all of his actions. So you can read those cards, leave some suggestions as to what you think he should do first. He has 2 actions, of course. He's going to go, then the Bright Wizard, then he'll go again, then the Bright Wizard. So let's take a look at the Bright Wizard's options, and I'll zoom out and we'll wrap up the episode for today. Alright, so for our Bright Wizard, she has all actions available. These tokens here are going to be automatic successes for these actions. So she has Fireball, Fan the Flames, Burning Sight, Smoldering Wrath, 2 damage on her. She has a ghoul engaged with her. And there you have it. So you can go ahead and pause and read those if you'd like. So I'm going to zoom out. We're going to wrap up our episode for today. Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game. All right, so there you have it. That was round 1 of A Foul Stench. This is quest 1 of 5. We're trying to go down into Odious Grump's lair and stop the poisoning of the water supply. And right now we're in the Winding Tunnels lair. And I don't know if I've done well in the first episode. Maybe you're pulling your hair out going, why are you doing that? But this is where you guys are going to come in now, because you can give me suggestions as to what you want me to do for the next episode, which is unusual on my channel because I usually have an episode a day coming up every day until I finish a series, and I sometimes catch errors and I sometimes don't. But this time, you guys can catch all the errors in between, and I can try and fix them before the next episode, and you can also give me suggestions. So thanks so much for your watching along, your patience with this. It's going to take a while for me to get through this series because of time constraints, but hey, it'll be a little more interactive for us anyway. So once again, thanks so much for your subscriptions, your comments, your likes, and this time, your suggestions. So leave some comments if you want as to what I should do. And thanks so much for watching along, and we'll see you in round 2 of Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game.